Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I always get excited whenever we have a medium joining us or anybody that has any kind of mediumship abilities. And she does. She's a spiritual life coach, a Reiki master. She does a lot to help you heal and move you on your path of life. And she is Kathy D. Carter. Kathy, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm great today. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you back. You're in Texas. What's your weather like this time of the year over there?
We've got the sun shining today. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's kind of, we're in the New York area, kind of cloudy and touching 50, if that, but it's just a new season and that feels good that spring has officially started, right?
Exactly.
So in what you do, tell me about the psychic part. Are you a psychic medium? Are you a medium? Please explain.
Well, everyone has different definitions that they put around medium, psychic medium. And I think that is our labeling network, and different people have different definitions for those terms. For me, what it means is, I love this example. I was holding a meetup once and I was talking about my stuff, teaching, and in comes this white horse and it's just dancing and prancing around. And I asked everyone, I said, does anyone know, does a white horse mean anything to anybody? Nobody said anything. I had a girl there that it was her first time being there. So I keep talking about what I'm talking about. And part of what I was talking about was relationships and about Romeo coming in on the horse, sweeping you off of your feet. And that's when this white horse came in, and I mentioned it to the group. No one said anything. I kept talking. Here came the white horse again. And it was so playful. It was such a cute little creature. And I asked again, no one said anything. And then he puts in Cracker Jack. And I said, okay, the horse is back. I said, he is persistent. He's wanting to talk to someone. I said, does Cracker Jack mean anything to anybody? No one had a response. And I thought, man, this is really weird. And I kept talking. Here he is again. And I said, are you sure no one relates to Cracker Jack? And the girl that it was her first time there, she said, well, I used to have a white horse when I was little and its name was Applejack. I said, that's it. That's it.
Close enough. Close enough.
Well, and that's the way most people that do mediumship, they get bits and pieces. And that's why they are always asking for confirmation, because the spirit will speak to them with their knowledge. I knew Cracker Jacks. I mean, they were around when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So they used that trying to get Applejack. And finally, she spoke up. And what it was, she was not allowing any fun relaxation in her life at all. And Cracker Jack was coming in, or Applejack was coming in to tell her to lighten up, go back to the fun that we used to have together. Because she said, I haven't thought of him in years. And she said, we used to have so much fun together.
Wow.
So mediumship, and that's not something that I practice a lot. So it's not something that I'm 100% doing all the time. So I'm not nearly as good of a mediumship as the people that's exactly what they do all the time. So there's differences for everybody. And I mean, it can be people come in. I've had people come in when I've done conferences and was doing readings for people. Spirits would come in, and it's such a unique experience when you're able to connect with spirits and hear them like that.
It's got to be very beneficial with you as a life coach, as a spiritual life coach, because I'm thinking, do you tap into somebody's energy to feel what they're going in, where they got going on, where they want to go, and that whole thing? And does that help you as a life coach?
Absolutely, because what happens is I I may be talking along, and usually I don't remember a lot of what I say to the client when we're in session. And their comments will be, well, it's funny you would say that. Or they will say something like, oh, that reminds me of grandma. So the information is coming in, we're just not as direct, because we're also working on helping change the person or helping them to see something differently. So we don't concentrate on it being exactly the mediumship.
Right.
It's more the coaching. But yes, they help me tremendously
Sure.
because they give insight of how to work with the person.
I'll bet it's more about energy as a life coach than the medium part. I mean,
Yeah.
call it that's a cool bonus when something comes through or somebody's, and I want to go back to Applejack for a sec. I'm going to assume that Applejack had since passed on, and that's why he was
Yes.
through. Okay, gotcha.
Sure.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
It's got to be interesting for you when you're in a session with somebody and you're getting these things, then you have to decide, should I say something? Is this relevant to the session, right?
Well, that's true. Usually I don't have a problem with that because I've already connected with whoever is with the person, whoever is there for the session to help. So I'm already kind of connected together. And the thing that I have the most problem with is when I'm getting so much information all at once to tell the person, and I can't keep up with it. I can't get it all told.
Yep.
Because so much is coming in.
And I call it psychic amnesia. When in her situation with Applejack, it's just like you get bombarded with as not you, the other side, somebody that you're speaking to. And it's even the family tree. I'm the worst on the family tree. If you said, Uncle Bill, I'd have to, maybe I'd get it, probably tomorrow, whatever it might be.
Right.
How about with people, and it's so prevalent now, and I think more and more of us are becoming aware of trauma. And we have all different definitions of that. And trauma could be just something you went through as a kid. It could have been something that happened on the playground, with other kids, or, could have been a fight, but it's shaped your life. It made a mark on you, and you're still occasionally dealing with it now, and you don't even know you're dealing with it. How do you get to the root of the problem as a spiritual life coach?
That's what's so interesting. And that's what I love so much about my work, because everyone is individual and I'm able to work with each person individually. It's not like there's a cookie cutter program of what I put them through. And I remember this one girl, like you were saying, traumas are so relative to the person, because a child that got slapped in the face one time could have as much trauma as someone that was hit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's dependent upon the unique soul. And this one girl, I was at a retreat, and this one girl, she had stood up to sing a solo and had froze and couldn't sing it when she was a little kid at school, first, second grade, something like that. She had never sang again, and she loved singing. And I worked with her at the conference and the retreat. And what we decided to do after we had talked for 2 or 3 hours, and I had drawn this memory back up of when she first wanted to sing and what had happened. So she went out, and that evening, all of us around the dinner table, she got up and she still couldn't sing by herself, but she led us in a song. And then she was able to start singing, and then she was over it. I mean, usually if you can find that and they look at the belief system they have and they see what caused it, which a lot of times they don't remember, but they can see what caused their issue, that takes care of it almost.
How do you find out as a individual what went, I don't want to say what went wrong. That is the wrong thing to say, but it's the first thing I was going to say. What happened that is maybe making things wrong now?
That's a unique thing that I'm still always, because I'm guided. I am just like a channel that this information comes through. And what is so unique about it is it's so specific to the person. And I am given the right questions to ask this person. I can tell by voice inflection, energy, their facial expressions, the tone of their voice. I pick up on the little hidden pieces, and I go in and I'm there. Like the other day, a girl came in with this big pink bow on her hair, in her hair. And immediately when she came in, I knew that was significant. And when I asked her about it, she said, oh, I just have a bunch of them. She said, it's when I'm lazy with my hair. A few more questions led into, oh, when I was 7 years old, Mom wouldn't let me wear any hair bows. She wouldn't let me wear frilly dresses. She wouldn't let me do any of that. But her friend or a cousin or somebody was able to and got to do all that. So you can already see where that's leading. That was one of her issues. And she hadn't ever put that together.
It's so
But
tough.
yes, a lot of women, I have found in my work that a lot of women that wear like little bows, or they pull their hair back like little girls do with the little clips and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They have a childhood issue that's connected to that they've never healed.
It is amazing how even something that could seem insignificant, like we said before, can make such a big difference. We're getting instant feedback. By the way, we're talking with Kathy D. Carter, who is a intuitive spiritual life coach, Reiki master. So many things we can talk about. We started with psychic mediumship, and now we're talking about traumas from your past. We have instant feedback. By the way, you can reach us anytime, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. This is Kathy in New Haven, Connecticut. And she says, my dad left our family when I was very young. I find myself looking for validation in relationships to the point of infidelity, and many of the men are married. How do I let this go? Or how do I get past this?
Right. Well, it would be with some intensive emotional work, because there's a lot of belief systems that you have that are controlling your life. But it's not just the belief system. The belief system is connected to the stored emotion that's in your energy field. And that is connected to the emotions that you felt when your dad left, that never got dealt with in a healthy way, so that you were able to feel it, heal it, release it, because it's still stored in your energy field and it's still controlling your life. Unconsciously, by the way. I mean, it's not something you're conscious of and can just fix. Usually with that type of issue, you need a little bit of help and guidance to get through it.
Well, to Kathy's credit, based on what she sent us, it looks like she's identified.
Yes. First step. Awareness.
Exactly. Kathy, when you're speaking with people or connected, do you feel their energy? How does that work for you?
Yes. Thank goodness I've finally been able to leave it with them, because that's what happens to so many people that can feel other people's energy, is they don't know how to use that to their advantage. They end up using it to their disadvantage. So like if I had a room full of angry people, generally most people join the crowd and become angry too. Whereas if you are a sensitive person, empath, or just sensitive to energy, then you can be aware that, oh, they're all angry. Okay, I'm going to leave that with them. I'm not going to participate in that. And that's a healthy way of managing your own energy field.
Based on what we're talking about, how do you identify your past? Let's say you do things, they might not be the way you want to do them. How do you look back into your past? I mean, some people, I hear about hypnosis, or of course, sometimes therapy can bring that out. But is there any way that we can work on it ourselves, until we take it to the next level, like having a coach?
The The one thing that I have found helpful for those that are willing to do the work that they can do on their own is to develop the relationship with your physical body, loving it, accepting it wholly and 100%, and really working on that relationship that you have with it. Because when you get united with the physical body, you're able to say, hey, let's release some stored emotion. And I mean, if you work with that just a few times and you've had the guidance, you know how to do it, you can do that on your own. You can go sit and meditate and say, hey, if there's some stored emotion ready to be released, I'm willing, let's do this. And you can absolutely just sit there, and sometimes there's breathing techniques you can use to help speed it along, but a flush of emotion will come over you. You may remember the experience, you may not. It doesn't really matter if you remember it or not. The point is to get that stored emotion out of your energy field. And then, of course, we have the anger room, which you can use for that too.
Say that last part again.
So we also have, I have patients or clients that want to do this work. I have them fix an anger room in their house, either in their garage, in a corner of a room, some place where they can go to release anger. They can also release their other emotions, but anger is the number one emotion that people don't want to deal with. They hide it, they seclude it, they store it in their energy field. That's why we have so many angry people walking around everywhere, because they don't know how to process it. And everyone is fearful of anger because most of the time they've seen anger in rage and hurting someone.
Yep.
So they're scared to tap into it. And I have to work with them to get them comfortable with, oh, this is my anger room spot. I can, if it's in the garage, some people use a ball bat and they beat up a box, an old chair, an old piece of whatever. If they're much more timid, as I find a lot of people are, I have them use like a pool noodle, the floaty pool noodle that you have.
Like the center. Yeah.
You cut it in half and you have a big pillow in your little anger room, and you go in there and you just cuss and beat the pillow till that anger moves out, because anger is a very volatile, energetic emotion. And you can't just sit and say, oh, I released my anger. You have to feel it, and you have to get angry to be able to move that out of your energy field. And that's a step that so many people skip.
Thank you for saying that. I think that's fantastic. And I've experienced it. I started kickboxing, and not like the full, you know, I go to the gym, I work out, and the punching bags are there. Bought some gloves, and I haven't done it in a while, but I need to get back to it. And that was some of the best freaking workouts I've ever had, where I'm just pounding the bag, I'm thinking of certain things, and I'm just going at it, and I'm dripping sweat. And I don't normally sweat a lot, but it's very, no matter what, you got to get out, you got to get it out. And whatever it is, it feels good. Whether you have to go to the shed in the back and yell, whatever it is. Yeah. And anger, correct me if I'm wrong, anger can turn into so many other sadness, depression, and it all starts with anger.
Yes, yes, because I had this one client, well, I had two actually, maybe three now. It was so odd because they wouldn't admit anger, yet I could see it all over them. And it would be in their tone. And no, I'm never angry. And come to find out, they had been able to separate themselves from their emotional, energetic field. And they had literally, because it was allowed to cry, they had turned all their anger into sadness. Because as a child, they were allowed to cry, but buddy, they could not get angry. That was dangerous, because you'd really get in trouble for getting angry. But you could cry and be okay. So they had switched all their anger to sadness. And I had to draw them, I had to get them aware of what had happened. Then we had to practice. And now, of course, they can show anger quite easily now.
Wow. It, it's, I'm almost afraid to say it, but our childhoods have screwed us up.
Yes.
And
That's the purpose of the planet, though. The purpose of the planet is contrast so that we learn lessons. That's what I believe today, anyway. And we come in with a set of lessons that we're here to learn. So we pick our parents to be the parents they are because they're going to provide the environment and the atmosphere we need for those lessons. Even though we can't understand that till we get farther down the path, that's what a lot of people believe at this point. And that's why we have the reincarnation, is because what you don't finish this lifetime, you get to come back and do again.
wow, you're making me think. Which is,
Good. That's our whole point. Our whole point is just to get
Yes.
people.
hopefully other people are thinking about it too. And it's an interesting concept you bring up, because maybe back when you were a kid, things happen. You didn't fully learn your lesson, but that sets you up for the future where you are learning your lesson to get you to the next step. The only negative I would say, and I hate to be negative, is that we repeat the cycle with our kids because we didn't have the tools. We didn't know how to deal with it back then. So now we're dealing with as adults, and now we're trying to deal with our kids at the same time, but we don't have the skills to show them, to teach them, to be aware of how to do it the right way.
And that's what's so sad. It should be a course in school.
Yeah.
It should be a course in school, how to deal with your emotions, because you're right. And what happens, you can notice a parent that is great with their children. Let's just take a child. The parent is wonderful with the child up to a certain age, and then all of a sudden, all these problems start happening.
Mhm.
It's because the child is triggering the unhealed, stored emotion in the parent.
Yep.
And then the parent starts projecting that onto the child.
Yep. In many different ways. It doesn't have to be, the parent is getting angry at the child. No, it could just be the way they're manipulating them, or
Yeah.
or what they're not doing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's it all starts with emotion. That's the the foundation baseline of everything right there.
Yes. And that's what I call it. I call it our dashboard to this human transport system. You have the dashboard in the car, and you pay attention to any light or anything else that goes on there.
Sure.
The dashboard to the human transport system are our emotions. And we're taught to totally ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're afraid of them. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to be sad. Yeah, I want to be happy, but you can't be happy unless you're sad, because you don't, you're not living. It's not happening for you. Fascinating stuff we're talking about. Very relevant. If somebody would like to connect with you, Kathy, how do they do that? They go to your website, and then what takes place from there?
At the website, there's a contact form, or my phone number's on there, the 214-245-2293. Text me, call me, email.
I love the way you break it down and you make it so simple, because a lot of us are also afraid of going down that road, let's say with a life coach or somebody that's going to guide them, because it's out of their wheelhouse. But you make it very clear. And I find myself connecting the dots even more after speaking with you.
Well, good. I'm glad I can help.
And I'm hoping, I need a session. I'm hoping it's helping other people as well. But we're just about out of time. Kathy D. Carter, great talking with you. There's so many other things we can talk about. We didn't even get into Reiki, which is another, way to heal. But I think what we hit upon today was uber important in terms of, what you do and how you can help people and what we're all dealing with. And, all I can say is I'm looking at the dashboard and the lights are blinking all over the place. I don't know what to do.
Just feel. That's all you have to do is just feel.
Yeah, exactly. Or go to your website, Kathy D. Carter, that's Carter with a C, and .com, and get some help. At least find out if you're the right fit for somebody. But you do have great insight, and I appreciate talking with you. I look forward to catching up again next time.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.